Okay, everyone, let's go ahead and get started here with our week number 4 training. Go ahead and erase our note here. We can get going. So as usual, what I'd like to do to start off is go through and review sort of where we have been so far in the program. So we are now on week number 4. So tonight's training will be week number 4's training on emotional management. But prior to that, we, in week number 1, talked about vision boards. So again, vision board is a frame with a picture of your goal or the thing you want to accomplish and a written note, sentence or so below that. And this is something that you get up in the morning, you focus on for 3 minutes, engaging as many of your emotions as possible. And again, in the evening for 3 minutes, again, engaging your emotions, all of your senses as if you have completed this item, and it's going to get your thought pattern in line with your goals because it all starts with our thoughts. The second item was in week number 2 was declarations. So vision boards are visual or visualization. Declarations are verbal. And what we decided is that what we see and what we say is what we become. So these 2 items really focus on visualization and verbalization. So declarations are a list of 4, 5, 6, however many positive statements that you are going to write down, and you're going to verbally say to yourself. Again, I like to do them right after my vision boards in the morning, focusing on my vision board in the morning. And then again, go ahead and pin my video back up here. And then again, after our vision boards in the evening. So those 2 things, again, the visualization, the verbalization, what we see, what we say is what we become. So that's what we focused on the first 2 weeks. Week number 3, we talked about action steps or baby steps. So what this is this is taking a goal we want to focus on, speaking with a mentor to learn what are the steps to get us from where we're at today to the goal we want to get to, because this mentor already has the goal. Who better to ask than somebody that's already achieved it, right? So we find out the steps. We map it out on that document that I gave you on the Facebook page, right? 1 action item a day. I encourage you to do 1 action item that's small enough and simple enough. You've broken it down small enough that you can accomplish it that day. And then in the evening, you make a checkbox. Did I do it or did I not do it? And along with that is coming up with an accountability partner, finding somebody that you can be accountable to. So every evening, what you're texting them is 2 things. Did you, yes or no, accomplish your action step for that day? And then also committing to them what your action step will be for the next day. And then every night you just repeat the same thing. And that is something that you can do to keep yourself on track and to have somebody to be accountable to, so that you're not just letting yourself off the hook. So pretty cool stuff so far, right? Those are the first 3 weeks there. These are very actionable. These are specific techniques that you can be utilizing, and they don't take a lot of time. That's the beauty of it. So I think here we decided we got 3 minutes here, about 1 minute with our declarations, and then action steps. You know, how long does it take to come up with an action step for the next day and to report back, shoot a text to report back how you did for that day? I mean, we're talking probably another minute, right? So now we're up to 5 minutes. Oh, sorry, this is going to be times 2. So this will be 6 minutes and 2 minutes. So we're now up to 6, 8, 9 minutes total out of your day. So what do you guys think? Is that 9 minutes worth it? Is that going to make a big difference in your day? I can tell you it will. So that's where we've got so far today. So that's sort of our review. We're now officially halfway through the program. We're going to start the back half now today with our training number 4, which is on emotional management. Man, this is a big one, guys. Emotional management is such a big topic, and there's a very definite reason that we're going to be focusing on this for our week 4 training. So let me first of all start off by telling you guys, and I think some of you know this already, but my father passed away this last week. pretty emotional time for me. He did live, he's 82 years old. He had me and my younger brother much later in life than normal. And he had a first family, his first wife passed away from cancer. And then he had myself and my younger brother with like a 15-year gap between us and the siblings from the first family. So our half brothers and sisters are quite a bit older than us. But long story short, it's still tough to lose a parent even when they're, have lived a good long life. And so I had a chance to implement what we're going to talk about tonight as I went through this experience with my father. And it's really been something that's been going on for several months now, as he had was ending or going down that path to the end of his life. So part of what I wanted to talk about today as well, along with that, is we just finished the viewing up at 7. I think I left there at about 7:30 tonight. So part of what we touched on, I believe it was either last week or the week before, is commitment level. Okay, I committed to you that I'm 100% going to be here for you guys to carry out this training, this free training, by the way, this 6-week program from Wishing to Winning. And I think in past life, prior to doing personal development and working on myself and learning what it means to commit, to give you my word that I'm going to be here for you on Monday nights to deliver this training, it would be easy to say, hey, you know what, my dad died. I'm literally had the viewing tonight. I've got to speak at the funeral tomorrow. It would be easy for me to say, you know what, I'm going to cancel this week or just not do it. But I really felt strongly that, no, I can do this. I have taught this training before, and I committed to these guys that I'm going to be here. And so hopefully that means something to you. And again, it's not something to pat me on the back, but it is an example of when we commit to something, I hope it's becoming more than just a passing phrase, and that you really mean that, and that's something that you are willing to put your name on the line, your good name on the line, and follow through with those commitments you give in life. Okay, so that's something that I wanted to mention. The other thing that I think really helps to set up this training on emotional management is to talk about the nature of problems, let's call them, in life, right? So with problems in life, this mentality that we have, and I've had this in the past as well, the mentality we sort of have is, hey, once these current set of problems that I'm having right now are over, then life's going to be good. Then I can be happy. A lot of you are probably laughing because the faulty thought in that is that our problems never end. We're always going to have a new set of problems coming in at any given time in our life, right? So with that knowledge, we've got to figure out a way to deal with our problems in a different way so that we're moving through our problems and not waiting for this false thing out there, this thing that is not going to happen. Let's call it a unicorn out there where no problems are going to ever exist, right? Because problems are going to be a constant. So today's training is going to help us realize that, number one, we're always going to have stuff of a negative nature that we're dealing with. We're always going to have problems. Some are bigger than others, obviously, but to not sit back and let life happen to us, to react to problems that come into our life, but to be more proactive and say, you know what, I know things are going to come up, but I'm going to move through them. I'm going to learn the lessons that I can get from them, and I'm going to move on, and I'm going to be more proactive in my life. Okay? So that is sort of the way that I wanted to set up our training here tonight. So the number one thing, and I'm going to write this on the board. So at the end of the day, the number one thing that I want you guys to get out of the training today is this. Don't dump on other people. When you do the triple exclamation mark that we mean business, right? So don't dump on other people. What is it about human nature that we feel like we need to share all of our negative stuff with people. That's just an acceptable thing that we do, right? And when I first heard this concept, I struggled with it a little bit as I worked through it, because it's like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to tell my spouse the stuff that's going on, the good and the bad, because it's my spouse. I don't want to like hide anything from them. What I've come to realize is that it's not okay to dump on our spouses. It's not okay to dump on our children. It's not okay to dump on our friends. These are the people we love the most in our life. And there's got to be a better way, a better outlet for the negative things that we're experiencing within ourselves than to dump them on other people. Because what happens, let's go to the example that I like to use all the time. So we'll just diagram this out. And I know this is going to resonate with you guys, because I know we have all experienced this, okay? So, and I apologize, I am not an artist by any means. So we're just going to go, I was going to draw a phone, but I don't even know if I could pull that off. So we'll just say this is our friend here, okay? And this friend is calling us on their mobile device, okay? So they're going to call us, ding, 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 ding. Here's us. Okay. They're going to call us, and our friend just had a real negative thing happen to them, whether it's, I don't know, they're having marital issues, or somebody yelled at them, or their neighbor did this, can you believe it? Or, gosh, I don't know, anything of those negative nature, right? So the nature of their call to us is they are complaining, or they are venting to us, okay? Have you ever, let's just maybe by using our chat box over here, I like to use the chat box to just get a little interaction between us, because obviously I do the talking here on these one-to-many videos, but based on the chat box, who in there has ever seen somebody post something on Facebook that starts off with, I just need to vent for a second? Anyone ever had this happen to them on Facebook before? I just need to vent for a second, and they go on with some long description of, happened to me. I had one the other day where somebody went into their car detailing company, and they just went on to talk about how blah, blah, blah. And it was just like all this stuff, right? And it's just like, anyway, we all know what I'm talking about. I see the responses here. You guys get what I'm talking about. We've all experienced this. So what is the problem with this, okay? What is the problem with going on social media or picking up the phone and calling your spouse or your friend or whoever it is and doing this? Well, the problem is, how do you feel when you read that Facebook post? How does that make you feel? It serves the purpose of making you feel the same way that person feels, right? And that's horrible. Like, I don't want to read your nasty post, and then, because what ends up happening is, like, 5 hours down the road during my day, I'm still feeling like crap. And you have that experience, right, where you're like, why do I feel like this? I can't remember what happened today where I just feel like crap. And then you remember, oh yeah, it was because I went on Facebook and I read that person's post, and I'm still feeling the emotion that they passed to me. Because guys, that is exactly what is happening, okay? This person is passing their negative emotion to you, okay? And the thing that's good about this, I guess the silver lining is, a lot of times this person doesn't know that. They're just frustrated, and they feel like, I've got to get it out there. I've got to tell somebody because I'm frustrated and I just need to get it off my chest, right? That's sort of what you hear. I need to get off my chest. I just need a vent. What I'm pretty sure 99% of people out there, if they knew what they're doing to everyone else that's reading that, is they would never do that. They don't want to hurt other people and make everyone else feel the weight of that. Now, obviously, there are some people out there that are a little more malicious, and they do want to just sort of bring everyone down, right? But I truly believe most people don't want to do that, okay? So now that you know, okay, you're now responsible for your emotions. So this is what I'm saying as I start off the training tonight is, let's make a commitment right now And whoever is willing to make this commitment with me, I want you to go ahead and type in a number 1 in the chat box. If you're willing to make a commitment that you're going to do your best to not dump your negative stuff on other people, go ahead and throw in a number 1 in the chat box for me. This has sort of become one of my personal, I guess, missions in life, is to educate people more on this thing, because it happens so often. And I gotta tell you, look, this is something I'm still working on, right? It's very tempting when you get in a situation with people to do this, that you just sort of talk about the negative stuff that's coming up. But I'm gonna teach you. So this is not just, as the other trainings have been, this is not just a training where we sit down and talk about this stuff in theory. I'm going to give you specific things that you can do, because we don't want that negative stuff to stay within us, because what that's going to do is that's either going to cause us to explode eventually, or we're going to implode. And neither one of those are good. We don't want to explode, or we don't want to implode on anyone. So we do need to deal with it, but we can do it in a much more healthy way. So Holly and I, when we have issues like this now, we don't vent to one another. We don't dump, or at least we try our very best not to do this. We have more constructive ways that serves the purpose without having to do this on each other. Because the thing that I didn't talk about yet, so we know the negative gets passed to us. What about the friend over here? A lot of times what happens is the friend, they actually do feel better. And this is why people do this, is because if I vent to my Facebook world, it actually helps me feel better, because I sort of get it off my chest. And now I've got people on my side like, oh yeah, everyone else is pissed off at so-and-so now because I'm getting them on my side. I'm venting, and you feel like a little gratification in that, right? It feels sort of good to vent sometimes. And that is true. But again, the negative piece, the venting piece is actually okay to do. What I'm saying to you is, let's not do it to another human being, okay? That is where we're causing damage. And now that you know this, right, you're like, oh my gosh, at least this is what happened to me when I started understanding what I had been doing with other people. I sort of made an immediate commitment that, like, oh my gosh, I do not want to be doing that to other people. So I need to be more constructive with the way I am dealing with the negative things that happen in my life, okay? So that is sort of the setup for the training here tonight. So now, what I want to talk about is another piece of this equation, which is another drawing I'm going to have a horrible time doing. And you guys can just laugh, have fun here at my expense, because, you know, drawing is just not really my thing. So what I've got here, you guys remember this movie recently? I think there's been a few different versions of it. The most recent one that I remember is Jack Black. It's called Gulliver's Travel. Did anyone see that movie, Gulliver's Travel, with Jack Black? He goes to this other world. He's like the really big guy, and there's all the smaller people around that that he interacts with. Sorry, I got to get a little caffeine here, guys. Been a little bit of a bad day. Not a bad day, a long day. So anyway, Gulliver's Travels. One scene in that movie, and you can see this again, I think there's been several different versions of this, but what ends up happening is these people of the world that he comes to, they're a lot smaller than him, and so they consider him a threat. So what they end up doing is they tie him down with all these ropes, and when he's sleeping, and then when he wakes up, he can't move, even though these ropes are real small. There's a ton of them, right? And he's struggling to get out. He can't get out of them, and he's sort of trapped here with these ropes that they've thrown over him and tied many of them. Guys, this was like the most ideal imagery I could come up with what negative emotions do to us. Okay, what happens is if you don't deal with the negative emotions that you have as you go through life, what you're doing is you push them down inside of yourself. So even some of these things that have happened years and years ago, they don't just go away. A lot of people think, oh, well, it's been long enough, it's just not really affecting me anymore. in reality, if you haven't actually dealt with it completely and completed that loop and got rid of it, you've stuffed all of this stuff down inside of you. And what happens is you can get so much to the point where it's up over your head and you're overwhelmed. All right. That's what the feeling of overwhelmed is you've got so much past experience and emotion built within you that you literally can't handle anymore. You're just like, you sort of throw your hands up and you're like, I'm just overwhelmed. I can't deal with anything else right now. It's because you've got so many of these past experiences and the negative emotions associated with it that it's literally gone up over your head. Okay. Similar here to our friend Gulliver, you've got all of these negative emotions, symbolic of these ropes that are tying him down, that they each take up energy. That's the thing that's really important with this conversation, is that if you want to free up energy and have more energy throughout your day, more motivation throughout your day, we've got to start figuring out a way to get all of this built up stuff out of you. And then it opens up more space to where you're now ready to take more in. And what we're going to do is take more positive in. So emotional management not just we've sort of dealt with like the negative stuff within us to this point, but there's a positive piece to emotional management as well. So really what we're attempting to do with emotional management is, if this is us and our bodies, and we've got negative, 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 and it's all throughout us here. Of course, we're going to have positive in there too, but if we just exaggerate our example here, we've just got all this negative, right, within us. Excuse me. If we can start removing these one by one, we get a whole bunch, we move them out. Can you see here now how that starts freeing up space for positive to come in and fill it up? And this is really, this diagram here that you're looking at now is a really good diagram for what exactly the goal of personal development is. That's what my take of it is let's get out some of the negative things that are part of our past, fill it with better, more positive things, and that's going to get us in a really good spot. Okay, so we're still talking all theory at this point, but it's important that you get the background. I usually spend a good chunk, half or more of the time on these calls giving the whys, because if you don't understand the why, it's just not going to be as impactful. So these are a lot of the things that I want you to really pick up here that are going to be super, super important for this conversation. Yeah, and the thing that's important too as we have this conversation is these negative things are within us, and even if we don't understand it or feel it all the time, you know, because each one of them takes up a little bit of time and energy, and they together are really tying us down. They're really draining a lot of our emotion. And so, you know, part of what we really want to do here is identify that first of all, realize that, man, I'm having a lot of emotion tied up here, or a lot of energy tied up here with past experiences and past emotions, and then make a commitment to start releasing some of that. Let me give you a quick example here. I just think I want to throw this in while we're on the conversation here. I had a individual that I worked with. This was in college. I did an accounting internship at America First Credit Union, and had a lot of really good friends there. And once I left that position and sort of years down the road, I was doing mortgages. I ended up doing mortgages, and this individual called me up and said, "Hey, I heard you doing mortgages. I'd love to have you help me out. I'm building a home, and I need to get the financing all in place." And so, you know, I was helping him with the loan, and some things just went a little weird. I mean, there's a lot that goes into the loan process, and we had some things that just, I don't know, something happened where the relationship just got a little weird, and he got a little like frustrated with the process. And anyway, just sort of this deal. And I always felt so bad about that, because I really liked this guy, considered him my friend, and this had happened. It just sort of left on sort of a sour note. And so I sort of carried this with me for years. Like, it had been literally 15 years that I, not all the time, but I occasionally would think about this situation, and it just sort of bugged me. It's like, that's just sort of a bummer. And then I learned about this whole concept of negative emotions and how they tie up energy. And I'm like, you know what? This is one thing that I spend too much time thinking about this. And I know it's affecting me, even if it's just a little bit, it's affecting me. So what I did is I ended up getting a hold of this guy, and I just cleared the air with him. I just said, hey, you know what? We had this loan that I did for you, 15 years ago. And I got to tell you, it just always has bugged me. I feel like I did some things that frustrated you and made the process more difficult than it needed to be. And I just said, hey, look, man, I just want to apologize. I'm sorry about that. Can you forgive me? He's like, oh, hey, no problem at all, man. I totally forgot about anything dealing with that. Like, no problem, man. It's totally cool. And it's like, gosh, seriously, I waited 15 years and he didn't really even care. He's just like, yeah, you're totally forgiven, man. No problem at all. But now it's closed. Like, that loop is closed and I can move on. And I haven't really thought about that or tied up any energy with that since, a couple of years ago when I finally resolved this with him. So this is the kind of thing I'm talking about when we talk about negative experiences and emotions that are tied to past things, and then clearing those out so that it freed up a little energy for me. Now I'm not thinking about that thing anymore because I've addressed it and he forgave me. The situation sort of passes now. So just another quick little, story there to go along with that. I would encourage all of you, if you've never done this before, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can have sort of like a yearly, a monthly, a weekly, and even a daily word for each of these time frames. This is just sort of a fun thing to do that I would encourage you to think about and to consider. Have a word that this goes back to our declaration, same purpose, right? So what is the word that you want to have as part of your life, as part of your being in the next year? Okay, I actually came up with the word for 2018. My word was conquer. So conquering any type of fear in my life, conquering, things that I've struggled with in the past. And so I came up with this word, and I spend a lot of time on this. It's a very motivating word for me because it means a lot of things to me that I'm really wanting to accomplish this year, right? You can do the same thing with a monthly word, with a weekly word. And each day when you wake up, so part of your morning routine when you do your vision board and your declarations, think of a word for that day that you want to have happen, whether it's successful or loving or connect or any of these words that we think about that maybe it's something we're wanting to work on or just something that we want to see happen that day, just having that word for the day. That's super, super powerful. And you know what the cool thing is I've done this is I'll have a word for my day, and I'll be focused so heavily on it. And so I'm looking for opportunities to make that word happen. And I'm just more conscious of that word. You know what I've had happen a lot of days is somebody will tell me, hey, you know what? You are da 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 da. And they'll actually use the word from that day. Isn't that cool? That's how powerful picking a word is for these different time frames, is that you start to focus on it, people notice it, and they'll actually give you feedback back. And that's when you know you've arrived. That's when you know that you're really starting to work your mind and letting the declarations and these different things set in, is when somebody else actually, without you prompting them, tells you that you are your word that you're focusing on. So be really stoked and happy and excited, and share that, please, on our Facebook group page if you have that happen. But this is something that I like to work into this training because it's a super, super powerful technique that you can do, is to pick a word. So if you haven't picked a word for 2018 yet, I would challenge you this week. See if you can't figure out a word that you want to have be a word that you're shooting towards and you're making a part of your life for 2018. And you can do the same thing. I like to write out for month, the week, and the day as well. So all those time frames, you can have a specific word that you're utilizing. And again, it's part of this whole concept of getting our thoughts started in a different place so that our results are ultimately different. All right, so the thing that's really important to understand with emotional management, we're now going to start getting into the, okay, great, Dave, this is all great. I'm on board. I get it. Now what do I do? I mean, what's the how-to here? So that's what we're going to start getting into now. So when you watch a TV show or a movie, I'm sure all of us have seen this happen before. When somebody goes to a psychiatrist, what do? In most cases, right, they've got this sort of the setup looks something like this, right? You've got this big fancy armed chair. Oh my gosh, guys, this is horrible. Sorry. So the psychiatrist is sort of sitting here in their fancy chair, right? They're sort of like kicked back, and I picture like this leather chair. And then you've got the other person, the patient, here on the sofa, and they're just sort of laying down, right? And talking to this. So here's our psychiatrist. Wow, guys, I'm a really psychiatrist, maybe. I don't know. Cut me some slack if that's wrong, guys. And then we got our patient here, right? So there's our patient that's struggling with whatever. You know, a lot of times it's like, oh, this and this happened when I was a child, or I had this thing in the past. It's some, you know, negative or really tough experience that they had or trial they had. And what are they doing? How does this usually transpire? Like what goes from here? Is usually this person, there's one of two things, right? And this is going to be really cool here. They're either verbalizing, so they're actually speaking. This person's maybe the psychiatrist sort of walking them through this, all right? Tell us about this, blah, 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 blah. This happened, da, 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 da. And then they're talking all this stuff here to the psychiatrist, right? And they're verbalizing their emotions. So now think back to our experience with the Facebook rant, right? The venting on Facebook, same thing, right? Even though they're not speaking it necessarily, they're typing it out. It's the same thing, right? They're verbalizing, they're getting their emotion out. And what ends up happening, the patient feels better because they're unloading this past stuff. They're starting to work through it. It may be a little, as it's coming out, they really experience it, right? But after time, they talk it through and they start to feel better, right? And the thing that's really important to note here, by the way, is this goes against our don't dump on other people. But these psychiatrists actually have learned techniques so that the things that these people are telling them don't affect them. They've learned ways to buffer themselves emotionally from this. So that's just something to mention there. The other thing they do, the other technique they do is they go through a type of a hypnosis, right? You guys heard of this? Where they say, hey, I'm going to take you back, and you know, you're going to da, 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 da. They take them back and have them actually go through these experiences in sort of a hypnotic state. Couldn't that be viewed as sort of a visualization, right? So we've got our verbalization and we've got our visualization. Interesting. So same things that we're utilizing to empower ourselves or to put our thoughts on a different path that leads to different emotions, different actions, different results, is the same thing that we're doing to release negative things within ourselves, okay? So I like to think of, so the techniques we're going to talk about, this is very important to remember, okay? That just talking about stuff helps people work through it. That's why professionals do it this way, is because it works. They help to unload some of this stuff and get them in a better place. All right. So now, having said that, go to my notes here, make sure we're not missing anything here. So now with that, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about two different types of emotional management techniques. We've got let go techniques. This would be related to the negative emotions in our life. And we've got power up or empowerment. And you'll hear these things called all kinds of different words. We'll just use these for simplicity's sake. So this would be positive things that we're putting back in. So again, remember, the goal here is to remove as many of the negatives as possible, but to then replace them with the positives back into ourselves. Okay, so let's first of all talk about the let go, because a lot of times we need to let go of some stuff to create space to then fill back in with the positive. And it's this constant, and this is a never-ending process, guys. So again, as we go back and talk about vision boards, declarations becoming a permanent part of your life, we can't just do these things temporarily. A lot of people just want a quick fix, like, okay, I'm just going to do this for a week or two, and it's going to change my life, and I'm done. The reality is you want to make vision boards, declarations, empowerment, and let go techniques a permanent, constant part of your life, because this stuff's going to continue to come into your life, and you're going to need to continue to deal with it. So just making them a permanent part of your life is going to be super, super, super helpful. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the different techniques that we can use. So this is now the nitty gritty where, hey, we've talked about this stuff, but it always comes down to action. If we don't take action, this training doesn't even matter, because you're not implementing any of it. So this is what I'm asking you now and challenging you now to start implementing in your life, because this is going to make a huge difference. All right, so with let go techniques, we go back to our little example of the patient with the psychiatrist, right? One way that you can start doing this is go out in nature. Again, if I hadn't given the example with the psychiatrist and the patient, a lot of this stuff sounds pretty funny, frankly, but you now understand why, because really all you're needing to do is to express yourself, express and talk about some of these past emotions, okay? So if I were to draw a little stick figure here, what we're looking to do is find what are some of these negative things that you have been carrying for a long time. Okay, it could be something very recent that happened today, yesterday, a week ago, a month ago. It could be something that happened years ago. I've dealt with stuff now with these techniques that are literally from my childhood. They're like close to 40 years ago now. Okay, so the time frame's really just all time. You know, anything that's bugging you, that's happened in your past, that you are carrying some kind of negative emotion that's never been dealt with. All right, so when I say nature, what I'm saying is, again, we've now committed over here in the chat box. I got everyone's number one here, that you're committing to doing your best to not dump on another person anymore. Go out in nature and do this, okay? What I mean by this is go out somewhere in your backyard, if you got a good backyard where no one else can hear you. Maybe you need to go out into a big open field. So think about the places you drive. If there's a field you could go out and walk in the middle of. Go up on a hike where there's not any people. Wherever you need to go that's out in nature somewhere, okay? The important thing is where no one's going to hear you. And just start talking to nature. Right, this is something that's hard for people to do. I still struggle, admittedly, with this a little bit, but you can write down some notes about a negative experience from the past to get you starting to go. But the thing that's really important with all of these techniques, whether it's let go or empowerment, is it's very important that you use emotion. And this is the part that's the most challenging, is for people to you start expressing yourself out in nature. So maybe it's whatever the situation is, something negative that's happened in the past. Maybe you had a big fight with a parent, let's use that as an example. Big fight with a parent. It was sort of left weird. You just went on your day. Things got better over, next few days, but you never really went back and addressed that experience, and it's still in you somewhere, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to go out in nature, and you are going to start expressing, I felt frustrated or angry about this situation because, and you're going to start just get it out. Release the emotion, show the anger, show the frustration, whatever it is, and just get it out there. Okay. Talk it out. Talk it out of yourself. And trees and plants and even animals, they're very resilient. They're not going to take this stuff on. They have a way of just releasing it back out into nature and getting rid of it. So just get rid of that stuff. And at the end, then I think a cool piece of this is to ask for forgiveness for feeling the emotion that you felt as part of that experience. Now, a lot of times people say, well, it wasn't my fault. Somebody did something bad to me. Well, that's okay. You can still apologize for carrying the negative emotion about the situation. There's something about apologizing at the end and just asking to have this released finally that is what finally gets it done. It finally releases it, closes the loop, and then you're done and you don't need to worry about that item anymore. Okay? So those are the steps that I would encourage you to just go out, express with emotion, and then at the end, ask for forgiveness. If you're a spiritual person, this is where prayer and repentance would come in, right? So I would still go do the thing in nature. And then if you have a higher power that you pray to, this is where you could go pray and ask for forgiveness for this whole situation and ask for that to be taken away as well. So you don't need to be spiritual for this to work. You can still go out in nature, utilizing, again, the way the psychiatrists do it, express it, and that is going to start this process of releasing some of these negative things within us. So that's one technique, is nature. Another one, this is the one I personally use the most, is called a write and burn. So rather than verbalizing the emotion, it's similar to typing it out on the venting on Facebook, right? But again, we're not going to show this to people. So you can either type it out on the computer and just sort of feel the emotion and really get it out, get everything out. It might take you a page or so to just get that out. Or you can, what I like to do is a physical piece of paper. I get my pen out and my prompt is, I felt angry about this situation because, and then I just start writing it out, write it out, write it out. Nobody's going to see this, so you can just get it out. Be blunt, be honest. You want it, what you're going to feel is you're going to almost re-experience that thing that happened again, which is a little painful as it's coming out, but then it comes out and it actually goes on the paper or it goes into nature, and now it's there. So now once it's here on my paper, I don't want to keep this around. I actually go get my lighter. I light my paper on fire and I go put it in I actually put it in the fire pit first and then light it on fire. And I watch those words burn until they're gone. And there's something about watching it burn that just really, for me, it just sort of gets rid of it, finalizes that release of emotion with that item. On your computer, you can type it out that way. How many of you, again, let's go to involve the group here in your chat box. How many of you have ever been super mad at somebody to the point where you're like, I'm going to write them a nasty letter here. You get on your computer, you write this thing all out, and you get up, oh, this is going to really sting them hard. And then sort of the reasoning kicks in and you don't actually ever send it, and you just end up just deleting it. But you still feel better because you feel like you almost got it off your chest a little bit. Has anyone ever experienced this? If you've experienced that, I want you to type in a 2 in the chat box right now. Just type in the number 2. I think we've all probably done something similar to this. Or you maybe you've written a note and you just never sent that note, and but you still sort of accomplished what you're looking to accomplish, right? So I've got a 2 coming in there. I think a lot of us understand this. Maybe you have sent it as well. And again, this is probably the same. Hey, you didn't know in the past, it's fine, but that is something where we're dumping on someone, right? We don't want to hurt people. Yeah, negative things have happened. Maybe they even hurt us, but I would encourage you, and I'd really challenge you, don't do it to people anymore, because it's not going to help what we're really trying to accomplish when we do these things is when we're trying to vent or tell somebody a negative thing that's happening. What we're really wanting to do is we're wanting to make ourselves feel better. We're wanting to talk that thing out. So we can accomplish that without doing it to a person. That's the whole point in conversation for tonight is don't do it to other people. Can I just show you guys something real quick that's going to drive this point home to them or home to you? Let me show you this. This is where it really got me, and I realized, okay, I need to make some changes here. And I'm not perfect at this, but I feel like I've come a long way from where I was. Okay, here is a picture of dad and mom. Mom's got to have longer hair here, okay? So we got dad, we got mom. If we admit it, guys, sometimes what has happened in the past, we've got child here. This is where it hits hard, guys, is we have done this to our children. We have dumped negative experiences, negative emotion onto our children. What does it do for us? It maybe helps us feel better. What does it do to this child? This child is not immune to this, guys. They're the same thing. They take that on. So this is what I was saying to you as I've worked through this. I've literally had to go back to my childhood with things that I can still remember today. And I've had to do these techniques to release things that happened to me as a child that were put on me as a child. And I just didn't know. I didn't know what it was doing. I thought just over time it just sort of goes away. It doesn't. So we have to deal with that. So guys, this is what I'm saying when I say let's commit to not doing this to other people, because this is what's happening. And again, once you sort of know this, man, I tell you what, you're super, super careful about not doing this to your children anymore, because yes, children, we feel frustrated with children. Trust me, I know it. We feel at times very angry with our children. They like mark up the walls, or they do, the crazy things they do when they're 2, 3, even teenagers, I hear, right? But there's different ways to work through this. And what I'm saying is that negative emotion that tends to trigger us, we can deal with that really strong emotion in a more productive way, and then go deal with the issue. We still have to go work with the person and work through that item, but we can take the emotion out of it. The emotion is what can cause really bad damage, right? So again, I think a lot of us have gone into confrontations with people having not properly and healthily released the emotion. And how do those end up? We end up saying stuff that's real hurtful that lasts for a long, long time. And so this is the whole point here is to try to deal with this in a much more mature and productive way. Right, so I've talked to you guys now about the 2 best ways I know and I have found to deal with these, but these are not going to work and be the best for everyone. Let me throw out a couple more. This one is probably going to be a little interesting to you guys. Crying. Okay, well, why do I start crying for a let go technique? Guys, I'm telling you, crying is one of the best let go techniques that are out there. Finding a song that makes you cry. I will tell you right now, if you have not cried within the last 7 days, you're due for a blow up. It's just going to happen. That's just how we do. That's how we are as humans. So this is going to sound funny, but having scheduled cries where you're just getting you're forcing yourself to push some of that negative up and out of yourself, and it comes through your eyes and your emotions. But crying is a very healthy thing. That's why we were made the way we were, because crying actually helps to release things. It helps to get it out of us. It's a healthy thing to do. So what you can do is you can find, I actually have a playlist, and I know many others, my mentor does as well. He's the one that taught me this. I have playlists of 5 to 10 crying songs. So I carve out time to play these songs that are guaranteed to get me crying. And I have a good cry, and it feels awesome. I can just feel like I got it out, and I'm ready for more to be brought in again. So again, if you're hearing this for the first time, this is gonna be sort of a funny thing, but I'm telling you, if you haven't cried in the last 7 days or so, you have some stuff built up that you need to deal with, you need to get out, and crying can be a really effective way to do that. Here's another thing. Some people are much more tactile, meaning they deal with things by touch much better than others. If that is you, throwing rocks is a really good one, okay? Get rocks. A lot of times I see people get a permanent marker. They'll write an emotion, they'll write a person's name, they'll write an experience, and they'll start chucking rocks. Dozens of them. Chuck them out there, chuck them. And then eventually it starts to get that emotion out of you by chucking rocks and getting that pent up stuff out of you. And again, so you see here, you got a verbal. This is a person that's probably also a little bit verbal. Crying, this is a good way just emotionally to start getting these stuff out. Tactile. So there's different ways and emotions that are with our techniques that can help different types of people. Singing is another one. I sort of lump singing and crying together at times. So one technique I've seen my mentor use several times is somebody that's really bottled up with different emotions they've dealt with in the past, like so-and-so did this, and I'm dealing with this in my marriage, blah, blah, blah. He will have them start singing a song in front of other people. Like I've seen this happen. They'll start singing, and every time they get into it, and they just start bawling. And they'll start choking it down. He's like, no, let it out. This is good. And they'll just have a good cry. And it's awesome. It's awesome to see that, because after they feel better, because they figured out a way to, they figured out a way to work through that and get through that emotion. Okay. And then we talked about some of the spiritual things, prayer, repentance. I won't put them up here, but those are other things. So we've really hammered this let go technique. So saying, pick one of these things, resonates with you, try it, start doing this. Again, I've had a mentor that tells me on the odd days of the month. So what I mean by odd days, if it's the 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, on down through all the days of the month, 31st of the month, to do a let go session in the evening. So go talk in nature, do a ride and burn, cry, throw rocks, sing on an odd day of the month, okay? On the even days of the month, you're going to power up. You're going to bring the positive back in. Okay, so Dave, what are some of the techniques for bringing in the positive? Let's talk about some of those, okay? Let's talk about journaling. Now, when I first heard journaling, I sort of instantly, journaling just sounds like tough work. It's maybe something that more of the women do a little bit more. I mean, not to get sexist here, but that's just sort of where I went when I first heard it. But journaling, guys, this is similar to writing and burning, but we're writing down the positive things, okay? So I like the prompting sentence to start off. So I am good at ... And you start writing the things that you're really good at. And this goes back to the declarations, the week 2 training. We got to be nicer to ourselves. We've got to tell ourselves nicer things. So this is another exercise in, I'm going to tell myself what I'm good at. And it starts to empower you. It makes you feel better, right? Another thing could be, I am happy because. And write down all the reasons that you're happy. What are the things you have to be thankful for? That can be thankful. So other words you could write in here are happy. You could write in thankful. You could write in I am excited because. So whatever these positive words are, right? And then you have a journaling exercise where you write up a half a page or a page of things. And these are where you're going to burn this stuff that's more negative. These you actually keep in a journal so that you can refer to these positive things over time, okay? So journaling is an awesome, awesome way. So if you were to, these are the two that I focus on, is write and burn and journaling. So on odd days, I'll write down I'll focus on a negative experience from my past that is still there in my memory, that I know is still in me somewhere because it still bugs me, it still ties up energy. I'll journal out that item, all the detail, the emotion, I'll get it out on the paper, I'll go burn it on an odd day. On an even day, I then will go and journal positive things. Successes I had today. I'm happy because, I am thankful because, I'm excited because, all of those things that I have to be great things that I have in my life. Excuse me. And I'll journal those out. And that starts to, so the void that we take out by removing a negative is now filled back in with a positive item. And this is where, as you do this over time, you get better, you get feeling better, you get more energy. And it's really the thing that we're looking to do with personal development, is out with the negative, in with the positive. Other things that you can do. What's some other empowerment? Vision board. Isn't that an empowerment thing? We're looking at the fun, exciting things. We're training our thoughts to be more positive towards the goals we have in life. So a vision board is an empowerment, a power up technique. Another one, declarations. Aren't declarations positive, uplifting things that we're doing to fill in those voids left from the negative to help us be more positive? They absolutely are. And this is also where we get into some of the, sorry, I was just, I lost my, I was reading here one real quick. Oh, this is where we get into our joy list a little bit too. I don't remember if we talked about this specifically in the program yet, but what a joy list is it's a list of things that bring us happiness. No, I'm not talking about bring others happiness, bring us personal happiness. What do you love to do on an ongoing basis? Do you like to go read books? Do you like to watch movies? Do you like to go get a massage? Like, what are those things that bring you happiness? And like, I love to get a haircut. I went and got a haircut today. It just feels so awesome to get a haircut. I just love that feeling. It brings me joy. So hitting things on your joy list are other ways that you can empower yourself and power up yourself as it relates to getting yourself to feel better. So I've got a whole ton of things here. Maybe what I'll do is shoot these out in a separate post. Excuse me, so that you can see all these different ideas. Celebrating. So when you have a success, celebrate it, dance, sing, throw a little party, go buy a cake for yourself, and share your successes with others. That's why I like on our Facebook group, I'm inviting you to, as you have successes, put them out there, because celebrating is also another way to power up and empower yourself. All right. Having a power stance. What do I mean by a power stance? Okay, so somebody that, the way that, and it's gonna be hard to do here because I'm sitting, but somebody that's not empowered is like this. Their head is down, their shoulders are sunk in, they're just sort of moping around. They may have their feet crossed, their hands are like in their pockets. You can see just by their physical appearance that they're not doing well. A power stance is your shoulders are back, your chin is up, you're smiling. Your hands are, maybe your palms are face forward. Your feet are straight forward, sort of shoulder width apart. This is a power stance. Or like, that's a power stance. This is a power stance. Something that is more positive in nature in the way you carry yourself. So just simply coming up with a power stance for yourself where you're more open and confident. If you're going through your day and you're feeling a little beat down, come up with remember what your power stance is and just do it. It takes 10 seconds to do it and hold it. You'll instantly start feeling better. I promise you. Getting those shoulders back, smiling, hands out in front of you, ready to take on, what is coming to you, having those feet planted straight forward and facing where you're going. Just having that stance alone could be something that's empowering as well. So again, I'll type these up and get them out in a post to the group so you have these. But those are the other things that you can really focus on. So just to sort of wrap up and finalize our training here tonight. Some of you watching live, I'm going to post this for others. I know we have several people in the group that are watching this in more of a recorded fashion. I will get that out for you as well. So the big things that I want you to come up with, away with from this particular training here today are, number one, don't make it a goal to no longer bleed on other people. Make it a goal to no longer dump on other people, especially the people we love. This stuff is going straight into them, and it's not healthy. Even though we've been taught, there was some rule, I don't know, growing up where it's like, oh, it's okay, we gotta express these negative things to other people because that's just sort of what you do. Don't do it. You can see now why it's important we don't do this anymore. And again, I'm on sort of a personal mission to continue to spread this message of not dumping on other people. Go do it in nature. Go do it in a write and burn. Go cry it out, and then go address the situation with the emotion out of it. It's going to be a much, much more healthier, constructive interaction you have with that person when that emotion's not there and you're not hurting each other and going after each other in that more negative way. All right. So that's really the gist of where I wanted to get to you today. I love this quote: hurt people hurt people. You have to sort of think about that for a minute. But if you're hurt as a person, your tendency is that you're going to hurt other people. So through the let go techniques we just covered, start releasing some of that negative emotion, and you're going to be a less hurt person yourself. And bring in more positive, you're going to be more positive yourself. And this is where I've told you over and over again in this program that it is okay to focus on yourself. It's okay to develop yourself personally and to focus on yourself. You're not being selfish, because your goal here is that if you can put yourself in a better position, you're going to be in a better position to help and uplift other people. If you're not in a higher place yourself, you can't lift other people up to your level. All right, so that's why it's important that we focus on self, get ourselves in a better position, more healthy, get ourselves this training, and then we can share and help other people to make improvements in their life. So just remember, hurt people hurt people. So I guess the flip of that is healthy people can help other people be healthy, right? So just keep that in mind. Know that you're not being selfish if you're focusing on yourself, if you have that intent to use your better self to help other people. And I know most people, that's what they're all about. They want to be more healthy themselves. They want to be in a better position themselves so that they can help other people. All right. So if you are somebody that is overwhelmed, you're like, I have so much anxiety, I'm so overwhelmed in life. What that means is you need to do some work to release some of the negative that you have in yourself over time. Start picking, and don't do too much at once. Pick just, again, if you just simply focus odd days of the month, I'm going to take one negative experience from my past. I'm going to really I'm going to write it out, or I'm going to go out in nature and just really belt it out there. I'm going to start getting that out. And then on even days, I'm going to fill back in with positive stuff. Why do I like myself? What do I love about myself? What are the successes I'm seeing in myself or in my life? These are things that start filling in back in positive. What do I have to be thankful for in my life? That combination there. But if you're overwhelmed, you need to start removing some stuff, because you got too much built up, and we need to get it down to where you're to a point where, okay, I freed up some space. I'm ready to take in some positive. And you continue to work out negative, bring in positive. And that's a great way to do it on odd and even days. And if you are somebody that's like, no, I'm not overwhelmed, I'm actually anxious to learn new things that I can do to improve myself, I'm there, I'm ready. You're somebody that needs empowerment. So this is where you need to get going on that vision board. You need to get going on your declarations. You need to start implementing action steps towards the goals you have in life. You need to go find an action or an accountability partner that you can start reporting to on a daily basis. All right. So guys, that's it. That's the training for tonight. Emotional management is such a big topic. I mean, we can go on and on for hours and hours about this topic, but the main gist of it is here is using let go techniques to release the negative stuff in our life from our past, and then filling back in with positive things like vision boards, declarations, action steps, journaling the positive in our life. And that is going to make a huge, huge, huge difference. I can't tell you, there's a lot of stuff that you have within yourself that you've been carrying for years and years that is tying up a massive amount of energy. It's tying up a ton of emotion within yourself. As you start to release this, you're going to start feeling lighter and lighter and lighter. And please remember to make sure that you're putting positive back in. Because if you put a hole there, something's going to fill back in. Let's make sure it's a positive thing, a vision board, a declaration, journaling, positive things that you're putting back in. So thanks so much, guys. That's what I got for you here tonight. Hopefully you got some good stuff out of it. Please feel free to share this stuff with other people. As you're learning this, I hope you're sharing with other people. If you're talking to people about, hey, I've got a vision board, you should definitely do one. Here's how they work. Or I've used declarations. Here's what they are. Here's how they can work. If you hear somebody being overwhelmed, you may want to just take a second and say, hey, man, I know what's going on is you've got a lot of stuff built in within yourself. Here's a few things you can try to start releasing some of that negative and then putting positive back in. That's totally cool to do, guys. You've got this information now. You're in a position where you can start helping others. But I think the biggest thing from tonight is don't dump on other people. Let's be more constructive. Let's be more effective and utilize getting rid of some of that negative emotion in a more constructive way so we're not hurting those that we love, our family and our friends. All right, guys, have a great night. You guys are awesome, and we will be back in touch throughout the week with some more stuff. But your action step, if you haven't figured it out yet for this week, is odd days, start releasing the negative. Even days of the month, start bringing in positive. Okay, you're going to be doing the positive each day, hopefully with your vision boards and your declarations. So that piece should be pretty dialed, but you can layer in the positive journaling. That's what I do. I always do vision boards, declarations every day, and my action steps all the time. On the odd days, what I'm doing is writing and burning negative stuff, and I'm journaling on the positive days, positive stuff. I like myself because my successes today were those types of things. So thanks, guys. Have a great night, and we will be back in touch shortly. Thanks again. Have a great one.